South Carolina rides on again. They remain undefeated and for sure going to remain the number one team in the country, defeating Kentucky, handing Kentucky to now a losing record, an 8-9 record, and still winless in the SEC. 95-66 final. This one got a little close for a little bit and then got carried away, kind of in South Carolina style for the majority of this season. In any kind of close games, they find a way to take off with it later on in this one. This team just has a lot of tenacity. This team was really led by Aaliyah Boston in this one. No surprise when you hear Aaliyah Boston and success, right? 30 minutes in this one, has another double-double to her name, 21 points, 11 rebounds. Zia Cook did really good as well, 20 points. And I know that she didn't start this game, but I got to give a shout out to Raven Johnson. I really paid attention to this one in the fourth quarter. I was watching this one. This one came on after I paid attention to Maryland and Indiana's game, the two ranked matchups. Raven Johnson had some beautiful passes. I don't know if I've seen some more beautiful passes this year than I have with Raven Johnson. She had a beautiful one to Hall in the fourth quarter. She did not miss in this game either. She was 4 for 4 from the field. She had 9 points herself with 7 assists. Really love what Raven Johnson's doing. But South Carolina, again, finding a way to look really strong in SEC play, staying undefeated. They are playing 12 players still, Steve. We're still seeing them play 12 players in conference. This team is prepped. This team is ready for the tournament. There's no doubt in my mind.
Oh, absolutely. And then I'm glad you said that because I was looking down at Cardoso. She only played 15, 16 minutes. Yep. And it looks like Saxton picked up, more minutes of her minutes, but Dawn Staley does this every game. She tinkers, and it might only be one player, but quite often it's more than one. Like you talked about Raven Johnson coming off the bench. Maybe that's where Dawn Staley sees Raven Johnson's strength. We were talking, off air here a little bit. Raven Johnson has a pretty high engine. I mean, it idles at like 65 miles an hour. So maybe by letting her settle down a little bit once the game gets started and bringing her in, maybe that's the thinking behind it. I mean, Fletcher, you mentioned that Fletcher's a senior. Maybe that plays into it. I think it could be, but I mean, it's just amazing how the coaching job that Dawn Staley is doing here, and I think it's very important to refer to Dawn Staley when we talk about South Carolina because she plays such an integral role in their success. I mean, she's got her players' backs. We're watching something really special. That dawned on me over the weekend that, okay, wait, South Carolina's number one. Of course, they're good. But I think we're seeing something special here. And I'm starting to wonder, is everybody else playing to see who's going to lose to them in the championship game in the tournament? I mean, I'm really getting that feeling now. They are so good and they do everything so well, even with their propensity, as you alluded to earlier, to start a little bit slow. I'm wondering, is South Carolina starting to put this season away? That wouldn't take away from the season, because I think you and I both agree that this is the best women's basketball season, top to bottom, that we can remember. But is that specialness going to be increased by South Carolina really making a dominant run through the tournament?
Yeah, I can't see them losing in January. I mean, I really can't see them losing at all, to be completely honest. But if you look at they do have some tough games in February. They do play non-conference UConn, and that's always a tough game. If UConn can get healthy for that game and maybe play more than 7 players, I think they have a chance. Obviously, you can't rule out the Huskies. And they also have to play LSU in February, and they have not lost yet either. LSU is a very strong team so far this season. They are looking really good this year. They currently sit number 5 in the nation, but you could make the argument they're looking just as good as South Carolina, if you will. They just don't have that big win like South Carolina does over Stanford. So that could be a really interesting game as well. I think South Carolina, like I said, I don't know if I can see them losing at all right now. The way they're playing and the way that they're just as deep as they are, it's hard for me to even think about them losing. Right now, we're talking about them winning 30-point games, right? So it's just not the case. They're going to take on Missouri on Sunday, 1:00 Eastern on ESPN. Missouri's sitting at 14-4 record. They are 3-2 in the conference. Again, when you sit and think about this, South Carolina, it's just probably going to be another win, right? You have to really it's hard not to make that assumption. South Carolina is one of still 4 teams left in the SEC undefeated. They are teamed up with LSU, Tennessee, and Ole Miss. So once they play some of those teams, I think that's when we can maybe talk about the potential of an upset or something like that. But if it is truly a win for any other team against South Carolina, it's definitely going to be an upset. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and it's something, and we haven't said much about Kentucky just because South Carolina is so dominant. Yes, they're winless in the SEC so far, but there's a lot going on with this program. I mean, really, you have Jada Walker, you had Robin Benton. They're really the two prominent returnees from last year's great SEC tournament run that they had. But I have to wonder how much they miss Dreuna Edwards. I mean, that's still playing out where she's enrolled and going to class at Baylor, and Kentucky has still not signed off on the waiver to let her play there. And Kentucky's coaches come out and said, well, she's not playing this year unless she had graduated from school here, which she's not going to do. And I think she was a really key player, a glue kind of player for the Lady Wildcats. And I'm wondering, really, her absence, is that why Kentucky has struggled as much as they have in the SEC, or is it just one of those years for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be a mixture of both. I think there's no doubt about that. There's a huge impact that she's missing from the squad, because Kentucky's just having a hard season. I mean, you look at what they've done, they've lost now 5 in a row. Their last win was outside of the conference. They had a 95-86 win, which wasn't even an impressive win against Ohio, a MAC team, right? We shouldn't be talking about a MAC team having a very close win against an SEC team. We shouldn't be having that. Even in college basketball, it shouldn't be the case. Power 5 schools get more NIL money, get more recruits their way. It should never be the case, especially with a team like Kentucky, who is known for college basketball, even on the women's side. Side. As for Kentucky on Sunday, they're going to face off against Florida, who's 12-5. They're also having a pretty decent year themselves, but they're struggling in SEC play. They're 1-3 in SEC play. They're currently 12-5. Where that game's going to be on Sunday at 3:00 SEC Network. Kentucky could really use a bounce back to get themselves back to 500 overall and to get themselves their first SEC win. They really need that moving forward. It sucks seeing Kentucky at the bottom of the SEC. They joined 3 other teams who have been still winless in this conference. When you're talking teams of Auburn, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, and Kentucky at the bottom, yeah, it's just not really the names you're used to hearing. When that's the case, or at least the majority of those names, you're not used to hearing them as basement teams in the Southeastern Conference. But that's where we sit right now. And Kentucky's got a lot of work to do, but hopefully they can find a way to rebound against Florida.
Yeah, one shining moment out of this is, I'll point out, I mean, Kentucky and, even their coaching staff would admit they really are a weak rebounding team. And they kind of matched up. I mean, numbers wise, they were out rebounded by, let me see here, by 6. And you're talking about going up against South Carolina and only losing the rebounding battle by 6. That's a pretty good performance, even though you're getting blown out by almost 40 points. I mean, I think that's a positive thing you can then carry over into a game against Florida, who's certainly on the boards is not going to be as dominant as South Carolina is. And then Aaliyah Boston, are there any records that are yet that have to be broken that Aaliyah Boston has not broken at South Carolina? I believe
there's something.
Yeah, I think she got the 1 offensive rebound, so she is now the career leader in offensive rebounds. So it's going to be interesting at the end of the year how many school records that young lady is going to hold by the time that she graduates.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or leaves. Yeah.
No doubt about that. Easily a first rounder in the WNBA draft coming up, could be the number 1 overall pick in the WNBA draft coming up right after the season concludes. Let us know your thoughts in the comment description below about the South Carolina-Kentucky game. What's your thoughts about the SEC conference as we keep continuing through conference play, getting closer to tournament time? Let us know in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe while you're there. And thanks for watching SlasherU.